There are checkpoints everywhere. Palestinians can't get from one place to another. Drives that ordinarily would take 10 minutes now take 4 hours.
It may feel like here we go again. But in Texas, 3 women from 3 different faiths are changing something for the better. Women of Jerusalem are here in Dallas, Texas, revealing for the first time the everyday life in the land of the checkpoints. Next on Salam America.
All the main access and artery roads are controlled by Israel. Anything that enters and exits the Palestinian areas is underneath their control. And so everything from getting medical help to getting education to trying to lead your daily life is at the whim of Israel.
Israeli checkpoints have been one of the most humiliating aspects of the almost 40 years of illegal Israeli occupation of Palestinian land.
I was asked those days, what does it mean to be adopted under occupation? It's a challenging question, yet the answer is more painful. When Ramallah was under invasion for 3 weeks, we were under curfew, total curfew for 3 weeks. So when the curfew was lifted, I got a call. It was lifted only for 2 hours. And as a matter of fact, I didn't know where to start from, what to do in 2 hours. It's not enough for anything yet. I got a call from a father of one of my patients. He was 6 years old. And the father was pleading in the phone, please come and help my son. And actually, this child had epilepsy, he had seizures. And he was practically seizuring at the checkpoint while the soldiers didn't allow him to enter to Ramallah to get his medication. So I had to jump from one place to another and meet him and had a fight even with the soldiers in order to reach my child. And I will never ever forget his eyes nor his voice when he was telling me, please doctor, don't leave me alone. I don't want to fall down again.
My name is Michal. I'm an Israeli. I was born and raised in Haifa up north, and I spent the last few years in Jerusalem where I live and work. 3 years ago, on May 2002, I went to a meeting in the Ministry of Education, downtown Jerusalem. It was a beautiful morning. It rained for the last time, so it was really clean and clear, the air. As I was walking up the street towards the offices, I suddenly saw on the other side of the road 2 border policemen pointing their guns to a young woman in a veil, asking her, shouting at her, to lift her top in order to prove that she's not wearing any explosives. It was clear that she wasn't. I stood there. I couldn't go away, and then instinctively asked them from the other side of the road, "What are you doing?" Then they pointed their guns at me, asking me if I have a problem, and I said that I do, and they said basically that I'm being very ungrateful, that they are taking care of my security, and that I should go away. And basically I had nothing to do but to give those soldiers the most piercing look that I could recruit. They eventually let her go. I was shocked twice. Once because the first question that was in my head that morning was, is this us? They are part of my society. The fact that they are doing what they're doing is partly my responsibility.
If you are not from East Jerusalem, but you are a Palestinian living in the areas that were occupied in 1967, in order to get to East Jerusalem or to Israel, basically you need a permit, a paper that allows you to enter into those areas between a particular time, usually between 5 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock in the evening. and it's very, very difficult to get that paper. If you are not working with an international organization, if you are not almost dead and need to go to a hospital, etc., basically you do not get such a permit. And so basically for the past 13 years, I have not been to Jerusalem, which is 5 miles away.
Hundreds of checkpoints in the West Bank. Every Palestinian has to walk through a single ride, 2-3 checkpoints. And the system of those checkpoints makes Palestinian ordinary people's life miserable.
ليش الصلاة حرام كمان؟ لا حرام يلا. هون رايحين على القدس. بدنا نروح هنا في رام الله، من وين نعدي؟ وهي معنا أوراق، شوفي. هي كله من كوبات حليب، كله من المستشفى. ما فيش ولا حد راضي يعدينا. ما بعرفش ليش ممنوع، يعني احنا مش أوادم مش بشر.
Since the Intifada #2 began, you have a much heightened level of repression. Often these towns or villages are surrounded by the Israeli army, and people aren't allowed to go out of their village to the next door. It's basically a horrendous situation. It's like living in a very big jail.
What should we call it? Is it resilient? Is it resistant? Is it that we stop thinking or dreaming or feeling, or what do you call it? Actually, I call it that we want to live.
I knew that I have to do something in order to be able to keep on living in peace with myself. So quite selfishly, I decided to join Mahsom Watch, which is Checkpoint Watch, and is a group of Israeli women that started with 3 women that at the beginning of the Second Intifada saw on TV photos and videos from the territories describing closure and checkpoints and siege, and decided to get into the car, drive there and see what is going on there.
Ronnie Jagger is a Jewish Canadian woman who divides her time between Toronto and Israel. There, she and 2 other Israeli women founded the Mahsom Watch, or Checkpoint Watch, as they felt a personal need to witness precisely what was happening at these Israeli military checkpoints.
By the time I joined, we were 150, and we are today around 500 women that are going daily to many checkpoints around the West Bank and around Jerusalem, from Jenin from Jenin up north till the southern part of the southern mountains of Hebron. We go out twice a day.
If you know something about Bethlehem, there is not a lot of land there. The community, which is about 70,000, is like the rest of the Palestinian population. We actually are the highest people with birth rates, the highest birth rates in the world. And so the community grows very fast. And the fact that the land is being confiscated and this little town is being made smaller, because it is much bigger, but at this point it's being choked to be 7 square miles.
We are not against security. As an Israeli, it is very important to me to live in peace and quiet. I want to be able to go out in Jerusalem and to come back safely. But